Welcome to World Revolution. Today we will share summary from the book Emotional Intelligence 2.0 by Travis Bradberry and Jean Greaves. Emotional Intelligence 2.0 is a revolutionary manual for developing emotional intelligence. The writers of this book discuss the value of emotional intelligence in both personal and professional success and propose doable methods for raising it. By using a blend of self-evaluation instruments, practical illustrations, and suggestive guidance, Bradberry and Greaves enable readers to cultivate the fundamental proficiencies of self-awareness, self-regulation, social consciousness, and interpersonal handling. This book review will examine each chapter and give a rundown of the main ideas covered in Emotional Intelligence 2.0. Chapter 1. The journey serves as a foundational introduction to the concept of emotional intelligence, EQ, emphasizing its critical role in both personal and professional success. The chapter discusses EQ as a skill that one can develop, a stark contrast to IQ, which tends to remain relatively stable throughout life. This chapter lays the groundwork for understanding how EQ influences behavior, decision-making, and relationships. The authors illustrate how EQ is more than just an abstract concept, it's something that directly impacts daily interactions and life outcomes. They give several examples of how people with high EQ handle emotional situations with grace, self-awareness, and control, while those with lower EQ might react impulsively or fail to manage their emotions effectively. One of the deep examples in the chapter focuses on the workplace. Imagine two employees in similar roles. The first employee is highly skilled and intelligent but often gets frustrated when things don't go as planned. This person might lash out at colleagues, withdraw from discussions, or shut down when faced with criticism. Despite their technical abilities, their inability to manage their emotions hinders their growth and strains relationships with their team. On the other hand, the second employee might have the same level of technical knowledge, but they possess a high level of emotional intelligence. When a project goes wrong or unexpected challenges arise, they manage their frustrations constructively. Instead of snapping at coworkers, they seek feedback, remain open to new ideas, and navigate difficult conversations with empathy. Over time, this person is more likely to be seen as a leader, someone others trust and want to work with. This contrast shows that even in high-pressure situations, EQ can be the deciding factor in success. The chapter further emphasizes that emotional intelligence isn't something people are born with or without. Instead, it can be nurtured and strengthened through practice, self-awareness, and learning. Bradberry and Greaves introduce the four key components of EQ: self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, and relationship management. Each of these plays a crucial role in helping individuals navigate the complexities of emotions in themselves and others. The journey is aptly named because it underscores the idea that developing emotional intelligence is a process, not an immediate transformation. By highlighting how EQ can be applied in real-world scenarios, the chapter sets the stage for readers to embark on their own journey of emotional growth. Chapter 2, The Big Picture. In this chapter, the authors break down the four core skills of emotional intelligence: self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, and relationship management. They provide a brief overview of each skill and its importance in personal and professional settings. The chapter starts by emphasizing that emotional intelligence is not just a nice-to-have trait, it's an essential ability for managing the complexities of human interaction. While IQ and technical skills may get a person through the door, EQ is often what determines long-term success, especially in environments that require collaboration, problem-solving, and leadership. To illustrate this, the authors provide examples of how individuals with high emotional intelligence outperform others in key areas like decision-making, communication, and conflict resolution. One of the deeper examples in this chapter centers on leadership. Imagine a CEO who is highly intelligent and visionary but lacks emotional intelligence. This leader might have brilliant ideas, but when it comes to managing their team, they may struggle to connect with others emotionally. Employees may feel undervalued, misunderstood, or disconnected from the leader's vision. As a result, the team's morale suffers, productivity declines, and ultimately, the company underperforms despite the leader's technical brilliance. This scenario demonstrates how emotional intelligence is vital for effective leadership. It's not enough to have great ideas if a leader cannot inspire and manage the emotions of their team. In contrast, the authors present a counterexample, a leader with strong emotional intelligence. This person not only communicates their vision clearly but also listens to feedback, acknowledges the emotional states of their team members, and fosters an environment of trust and collaboration. When challenges arise, this leader remains calm under pressure, addressing issues with empathy and tact. The team feels supported, valued, and motivated, leading to higher performance, creativity, and job satisfaction. The example highlights how EQ is critical to leading others effectively and creating a positive organizational culture. Another deep example in the big picture involves personal relationships. Bradberry and Greaves discuss how emotional intelligence is equally important in personal contexts, such as friendships and family dynamics. Consider two siblings who frequently argue over small things. One sibling has low emotional intelligence, often reacting impulsively with anger or frustration, escalating minor disagreements into full-blown conflicts. The other sibling, however, has high EQ and approaches these situations differently. Instead of reacting emotionally, they pause, reflect on the situation, and consider the feelings of their sibling before responding. Over time, this emotional awareness and self-management lead to more constructive conversations, improved understanding, and a stronger bond between them. This example showcases how EQ can transform even the most personal interactions. The authors also expand on how EQ impacts not just individual relationships but entire organizational systems. They point out that companies with emotionally intelligent leaders and employees tend to have healthier work environments, higher employee engagement, and greater overall success. When employees are emotionally attuned to themselves and others, they collaborate better, handle stress more effectively, and are more adaptable to change, key qualities in a fast-paced, competitive world. The key message in Chapter 2 is that emotional intelligence creates ripple effects that extend far beyond the individual. It's a skill that, when cultivated, enhances leadership, teamwork, communication, and personal relationships. The chapter encourages readers to see EQ not as an isolated skill but as a powerful force that shapes the overall big picture of success and fulfillment in both life and work. By examining these scenarios, Bradberry and Greaves illustrate how developing emotional intelligence can lead to more meaningful relationships, more effective leadership, and ultimately, greater success in both personal and professional realms. Chapter 3: Emotional Intelligence Assessment. Bradberry and Greaves introduce the Emotional Intelligence Appraisal, a self-assessment tool designed to measure an individual's EQ. They explain how to interpret the results of the assessment and identify areas for improvement in each of the 4 core skills. The chapter emphasizes that self-assessment is the starting point for any meaningful development. Bradberry and Greaves use practical, relatable examples to illustrate how individuals often overestimate or underestimate their emotional intelligence and how this can affect their personal and professional lives. One deep example presented in this chapter is of a mid-level manager who believes he is highly self-aware and has strong people skills. He takes pride in his ability to lead his team and manage workplace stress. However, after taking the EQ assessment, he is surprised to learn that his scores in self-awareness and social awareness are lower than he expected. Despite being technically proficient and hardworking, the assessment reveals that he is not as attuned to his own emotions or those of his team as he had thought. For example, he might become defensive when receiving feedback or overlook signs of burnout in his employees. The realization that he lacks emotional insight into his own behavior opens his eyes to the impact he is having on his team. In meetings, he might come across as dismissive or closed off to suggestions without realizing it, creating an environment where employees are less likely to speak up. This revelation from the EQ assessment becomes a turning point for him. He recognizes that improving his self-awareness is crucial if he wants to foster a more open and productive work environment. This example highlights how the assessment can act as a mirror, helping individuals see blind spots in their emotional intelligence that they may not have recognized on their own. Another compelling example in this chapter involves a woman who excels in self-management but struggles with social awareness. She is highly disciplined, always in control of her emotions, and never loses her temper in stressful situations. However, her assessment results show that while she is good at managing her own emotional state, she often misses important emotional cues from others. She might misinterpret her colleagues' frustrations as indifference or fail to notice when a friend is feeling down. As a result, she can come across as emotionally distant or unaware, even though she genuinely cares about the people around her. The EQ assessment becomes a critical tool for her to improve her ability to read the emotions of others and respond with greater empathy. By focusing on social awareness, she can enhance her relationships at work and in her personal life. This example underscores the importance of balancing all aspects of emotional intelligence and not relying too heavily on one skill at the expense of others. In Chapter 3, the authors emphasize that emotional intelligence is not about being perfect or scoring high across all areas right away. Instead, it's about using the assessment as a roadmap for personal growth. They stress that everyone has different strengths and weaknesses when it comes to emotional intelligence, and the assessment helps individuals pinpoint specific areas where they can focus their efforts. Moreover, the chapter suggests that EQ is dynamic. It can be developed and improved over time with intentional effort. This is an empowering message for readers, as it reinforces the idea that emotional intelligence is not a fixed trait but something that can be cultivated through self-reflection and practice. In summary, Chapter 3 of Emotional Intelligence 2.0 is about providing a practical tool for individuals to assess their emotional intelligence. Through deep examples, the authors show how the EQ assessment can offer valuable insights into how well people understand and manage their emotions, as well as how effectively they relate to others. These insights are crucial for anyone looking to enhance their personal and professional relationships, as the assessment sheds light on areas for growth that might otherwise go unnoticed. The chapter sets the stage for readers to begin their journey of improving their emotional intelligence by first understanding where they currently stand. Chapter 4, Emotional Self-Awareness. The significance of recognizing one's emotions, strengths, weaknesses, and values is addressed. Bradberry and Greaves offer methods to improve emotional self-awareness, including keeping a journal, asking for feedback, and engaging in mindfulness exercises. The authors provide deep, illustrative examples that show how emotional self-awareness can change the way individuals approach their daily lives and interactions. One key example involves a high-powered executive who consistently feels overwhelmed and stressed but doesn't fully understand why. Despite her success, she finds herself lashing out at colleagues and family members, and she often leaves meetings feeling dissatisfied or angry. She tends to blame external factors, like her workload or team performance, for her emotional outbursts. When she begins focusing on emotional self-awareness, she realizes that her emotional reactions are not just about the circumstances at work. She has been ignoring signals from her body, like tension in her shoulders or headaches, that indicate she is under constant pressure. She also discovers that her emotional triggers are related to a deeper fear of losing control or appearing incompetent in her role. This realization helps her recognize that many of her emotional responses stem from internal fears and pressures, not just from external challenges. By becoming aware of these emotions and their root causes, she can start managing her stress more effectively. Instead of reacting impulsively in tense situations, she learns to pause, recognize the emotions she is feeling, and address them before they escalate. This deep example demonstrates how emotional self-awareness allows people to take control of their emotional lives by first understanding the underlying factors driving their feelings. Another rich example from the chapter involves a man who struggles with frustration and anger in his personal relationships. He often feels misunderstood by his partner and children, and his instinct is to argue when things don't go his way. He perceives others as being overly critical or dismissive of his needs. However, after working on his emotional self-awareness, he begins to realize that his defensiveness is rooted in his own insecurities and fear of rejection, not in the actual behavior of his family members. Through self-reflection, he becomes more aware of the patterns in his emotional responses. he notices that he often feels triggered when he perceives any form of criticism, even when it's constructive. By identifying this emotional trigger, he starts to take a step back when those feelings arise, allowing himself to process his emotions before responding. This self-awareness leads him to have calmer, more productive conversations with his family, improving his relationships over time. In this example, emotional self-awareness becomes a transformative tool for managing personal relationships. By recognizing his emotional triggers and understanding the deeper emotions behind them, the man is able to change his behavior and improve the way he interacts with his loved ones. Bradberry and Greaves highlight that emotional self-awareness doesn't just help individuals manage negative emotions, it also enables them to better understand and appreciate positive emotions. For instance, a young entrepreneur might frequently experience excitement and inspiration but may not recognize how these emotions affect her decision-making. When she begins to develop her emotional self-awareness, she starts to see that during moments of enthusiasm, she tends to take on too many projects or make hasty decisions without thinking them through. By becoming more aware of her emotional highs, she can channel her excitement more effectively, balancing her creativity with careful planning and reflection. This example illustrates how emotional self-awareness can help individuals harness positive emotions in a way that leads to more thoughtful and balanced actions. It shows that emotional self-awareness is not only about managing difficult emotions but also about using positive emotions to make better choices. Throughout Chapter 4, the authors emphasize that emotional self-awareness is the cornerstone of emotional intelligence. Without it, individuals are left reacting to their emotions without fully understanding them. With self-awareness, however, they gain the ability to pause, reflect, and choose their responses wisely. This leads to greater emotional control, better decision-making, and healthier relationships in both personal and professional contexts. By providing these deep examples, Bradberry and Greaves help readers see that emotional self-awareness is a skill that can be developed with practice. Whether it's recognizing stress triggers, understanding emotional reactions in relationships, or harnessing excitement for better decision-making, self-awareness is the key to unlocking the power of emotional intelligence. The chapter encourages readers to make self-reflection a regular practice, as doing so can lead to profound personal growth and improved emotional well-being. Chapter 5: Emotional Self-Management. Building on the foundation of self-awareness, this chapter focuses on self-management, the ability to control one's emotions and impulses effectively. The authors offer practical techniques for managing stress, staying calm under pressure, and maintaining a positive outlook in challenging situations. The authors use deep examples to illustrate how emotional self-management can transform personal and professional experiences. One powerful example in the chapter involves a marketing director who frequently feels overwhelmed at work due to tight deadlines and high expectations. When things don't go according to plan, she tends to spiral into anxiety and frustration. Without emotional self-management, these feelings lead her to overreact in meetings, snapping at colleagues, making rash decisions, or avoiding conversations altogether. As a result, her team feels tense, and her relationships with coworkers begin to suffer. Her inability to manage her stress is holding her back professionally, and her emotional outbursts are eroding the trust she has built with her colleagues. After learning about emotional self-management, she starts to implement strategies to regain control of her emotions. She begins to notice when stress starts to build, her heart races, her hands get clammy, and she feels the urge to lash out. Instead of acting on these impulses, she pauses, takes a few deep breaths, and reminds herself that reacting emotionally will only make the situation worse. She starts scheduling short breaks during her workday to recharge mentally, which helps her manage the pressure without becoming overwhelmed. This newfound emotional control allows her to approach difficult situations with a clearer mind. During a high-stakes meeting, for instance, she encounters a major setback. A client pulls out of a project at the last minute. While she feels her stress levels rise, she now has the tools to manage those feelings. Instead of panicking or lashing out at her team, she calmly reassesses the situation, seeks input from her colleagues, and works toward a solution. Her ability to manage her emotions helps her stay composed, and her team responds positively to her leadership. This example demonstrates how emotional self-management helps individuals stay resilient under pressure and avoid damaging their relationships or productivity. Another deep example focuses on a man who struggles with anger management, particularly in his personal life. When he feels disrespected or ignored, his instinct is to react with anger, raising his voice or making harsh remarks. These emotional outbursts create friction in his relationships with his spouse and children, leading to recurring conflicts that leave him feeling guilty and frustrated. His inability to manage his anger is causing rifts in his family, and he knows something needs to change. After reading about emotional self-management, he realizes that he has the power to control his reactions. He starts paying closer attention to the physical and emotional signs that precede his anger: tightness in his chest, clenching his fists, and racing thoughts. When these warning signs appear, he uses a simple but effective strategy. He physically removes himself from the situation, giving himself time to cool down before responding. This might mean taking a walk, doing deep breathing exercises, or simply sitting in silence for a few minutes. Over time, his ability to manage his anger improves. When his children misbehave or his spouse brings up a difficult topic, he no longer reacts impulsively. Instead, he takes a moment to process his feelings, chooses his words carefully, and responds calmly. This shift in behavior transforms his relationships. His family members feel more heard and respected, and conflicts that once escalated now dissolve more easily. This example shows how emotional self-management can profoundly impact personal relationships by preventing destructive emotional reactions. The authors also discuss emotional self-management in the context of long-term goals and self-discipline. They use an example of an entrepreneur who struggles with procrastination. He often feels overwhelmed by the amount of work he has to do, and when the stress becomes too much, he distracts himself with unproductive activities like browsing social media or avoiding tasks altogether. His inability to manage his emotions around work stress is keeping him from achieving his goals. Through emotional self-management, the entrepreneur learns to recognize the emotional triggers that lead to procrastination, feelings of anxiety, and self-doubt. Instead of giving into those emotions, he practices self-discipline by breaking down his tasks into smaller, manageable steps and rewarding himself for completing them. He also adopts mindfulness techniques, which help him stay present and focused when anxiety starts to build. By managing his emotions, he becomes more productive, meets his deadlines, and gains confidence in his abilities. The underlying theme in these examples is that emotional self-management gives individuals the power to choose how they respond to their emotions, rather than being controlled by them. Whether it's managing stress in the workplace, avoiding impulsive reactions in relationships, or staying disciplined in the pursuit of goals, the skill of self-management allows people to take control of their emotional lives. Bradberry and Greaves stress that emotional self-management is not about suppressing emotions or pretending they don't exist. Instead, it's about acknowledging emotions, understanding their impact, and responding to them in a way that aligns with one's long-term values and goals. The chapter encourages readers to see emotional self-management as a skill that can be developed over time, leading to more thoughtful, intentional, and productive responses in all areas of life. By using these deep, relatable examples, Chapter 5 shows readers that emotional self-management is a key component of emotional intelligence. It allows people to navigate the ups and downs of life with greater composure, resilience, and control, resulting in healthier relationships, improved performance, and greater overall well-being. Chapter 6: Social Awareness. In this chapter, Bradberry and Greaves explore the skill of social awareness, which involves understanding and empathizing with others' emotions. They discuss the importance of active listening, nonverbal cues, and perspective-taking in developing strong social awareness skills. The authors provide compelling examples that illustrate how the lack of social awareness can cause misunderstandings and missed opportunities, while strong social awareness can lead to meaningful connections and more successful interactions. One deep example presented in this chapter involves a team leader in a corporate setting who struggles with low social awareness. This leader is highly task-oriented and focused on efficiency, but in the process, They overlook the emotional dynamics within their team. During meetings, they are so focused on the agenda that they fail to notice when team members seem disengaged, frustrated, or confused. The leader doesn't pick up on nonverbal cues like crossed arms, sighs, or a lack of eye contact, indicators that the team is either bored or dissatisfied. Instead, the leader barrels through the meeting, assuming that everyone is on the same page. Without realizing it, this lack of social awareness is causing problems. The leader's failure to recognize and address the team's emotional state leads to decreased morale and engagement. Team members begin to feel disconnected, and productivity declines. Employees might start missing deadlines or showing up late to meetings, but the leader attributes this to a lack of work ethic rather than understanding the underlying emotional issues. This example shows how the absence of social awareness can damage team dynamics and hinder effective leadership. As the leader becomes more aware of their shortcomings, they begin practicing social awareness techniques, like actively observing their team's body language and tone of voice, asking open-ended questions to gauge emotions, and pausing during meetings to check in with the group. Over time, the leader notices a dramatic shift, employees feel heard and valued, they engage more openly in discussions, and the team becomes more cohesive and productive. This example highlights how developing social awareness can lead to stronger, more emotionally attuned leadership. Another deep example centers on a young professional navigating a difficult personal relationship. She struggles with social awareness in her interactions with her best friend, who has recently gone through a painful breakup. The young woman genuinely cares about her friend but often misses the emotional cues that signal her friend is still hurting. She tries to cheer her up with upbeat conversations or distractions, unaware that her friend might need a different kind of support, perhaps someone to simply listen or acknowledge her sadness. Her lack of social awareness leads to a widening emotional gap between the two, as her friend begins to feel misunderstood and unsupported. By working on her social awareness, the young woman starts to pay closer attention to her friend's emotions. She learns to listen more actively, not just to what is being said, but also to what is left unsaid, her friend's quiet pauses, the change in her tone, or the sadness in her eyes. She begins to ask thoughtful, empathetic questions that give her friend space to express her feelings, rather than trying to fix the situation immediately. Through these small but meaningful adjustments, the young woman rebuilds the connection with her friend, offering the kind of support that truly resonates. This example demonstrates how social awareness can profoundly enhance personal relationships by allowing individuals to better understand and respond to the emotional needs of others. The chapter also provides examples of how social awareness plays a crucial role in managing conflicts. Bradberry and Greaves discuss a manager who is often caught off guard by the tension between two employees. These employees frequently disagree, and their arguments disrupt the work environment. Initially, the manager is unsure why these conflicts escalate so quickly, as the disagreements seem minor. However, after improving their social awareness, the manager begins to notice the subtle emotional triggers in these interactions. One employee's frustration is visible in her tight posture and curt responses, while the other's defensiveness comes across in his raised voice and flushed face. Once the manager becomes more aware of these emotional undercurrents, they are better able to intervene early. Rather than waiting until the argument has escalated, the manager steps in when they first notice the tension rising, asking each employee to take a breath and explain their perspective calmly. The manager also acknowledges the emotions at play, emphasizing that it's not just about the task at hand but also about the frustrations or stress that might be fueling the conflict. This allows the employees to feel seen and understood, helping them resolve the issue before it spirals out of control. This example highlights how social awareness can be a powerful tool for conflict resolution, as it enables leaders to recognize emotional cues and diffuse tensions before they escalate. In another example, the authors illustrate how social awareness is crucial in customer service roles. A sales associate who lacks social awareness might stick rigidly to their sales script, pushing products or services without noticing how the customer is reacting. If the customer shows signs of hesitation or discomfort, like avoiding eye contact, shifting their weight, or giving short answers, the associate, unaware of these cues, might continue with the hard sell, ultimately alienating the customer. On the other hand, a sales associate with high social awareness would notice these subtle signals and adjust their approach accordingly. They might pause, ask the customer how they're feeling about the product, or offer a moment of silence to allow the customer to gather their thoughts. This associate understands that emotional cues are just as important as verbal feedback in guiding the interaction. As a result, they build rapport with the customer and create a more positive experience. This example demonstrates how social awareness can lead to more effective communication and stronger connections in customer service. Throughout Chapter 6, Bradberry and Greaves emphasize that social awareness is not just about observing emotions, it's about responding to them appropriately and with empathy. The authors stress the importance of being fully present in interactions, listening attentively, and reading between the lines to understand the full emotional landscape of a situation. They encourage readers to cultivate this skill by practicing mindfulness, tuning into body language, and being patient in conversations. In summary, the examples in Chapter 6, Social Awareness, illustrate the profound impact that understanding others' emotions can have on both personal and professional relationships. Whether it's leading a team, supporting a friend, managing conflict, or connecting with customers, social awareness enables individuals to navigate the complexities of human interaction with empathy and skill. By developing social awareness, people can create more meaningful connections, reduce misunderstandings, and foster more harmonious and productive environments. Chapter 7, Relationship Management. The final core skill of emotional intelligence is relationship management, which encompasses the ability to communicate effectively, resolve conflicts, and build strong connections with others. Bradberry and Greaves provide strategies for building trust, fostering collaboration, and navigating difficult conversations. The chapter is rich with deep examples that show how the ability, or inability, to manage relationships can have a powerful impact on both personal and professional dynamics. One of the first examples in this chapter involves a company executive who excels at managing relationships. She is well respected not only because of her professional competence but also because of her ability to engage with people meaningfully. This executive makes a point to check in with her team regularly, not just to discuss work tasks but to ask about their lives, challenges, and personal interests. She remembers small details, like an employee's child starting school or another's recent vacation, and follows up with genuine curiosity. By building these personal connections, she creates an environment where people feel valued and motivated. When conflicts arise in her team, she is able to resolve them more effectively because she has already established a foundation of trust. Her team members feel comfortable coming to her with issues, knowing she will listen and work with them to find solutions. Her emotional intelligence allows her to manage relationships in a way that not only improves team morale but also boosts productivity. This example demonstrates how relationship management, built on emotional connection and empathy, can lead to a more harmonious and successful workplace. In contrast, another example illustrates the negative effects of poor relationship management. A manager at a technology firm has strong technical skills, but he struggles to maintain positive relationships with his team. He often focuses solely on project deadlines and performance metrics, ignoring the emotional and interpersonal aspects of team dynamics. When his team members come to him with concerns, whether about workload or personal issues, he tends to dismiss them, believing that emotional concerns are irrelevant to work. As a result, his team feels unsupported and disconnected from him. Over time, the lack of relationship management leads to a breakdown in communication. Team members begin to withhold information, hesitate to share ideas, and avoid addressing problems directly with the manager. This results in poor collaboration, lower morale, and ultimately, declining team performance. This example illustrates how ignoring the emotional aspect of relationships can harm not only the individuals involved but also the organization as a whole. The authors also explore the role of relationship management in conflict resolution. They provide a detailed example of two coworkers who frequently clash over their different working styles. One coworker prefers to brainstorm collaboratively, while the other values structure and individual work. their disagreements begin to affect the team's workflow and cause tension. Initially, neither coworker is willing to compromise or understand the other's perspective. However, after a third colleague steps in, using relationship management skills, the situation begins to improve. This third colleague listens carefully to both sides and helps them see the strengths in each other's approach. She encourages them to find common ground, suggesting that they start with individual work and then come together to review their progress. By managing the relationship between the two coworkers and facilitating open communication, she helps them resolve their conflict and work more effectively together. This example shows how relationship management can play a crucial role in bridging differences and fostering collaboration. Bradberry and Greaves also provide examples that highlight how relationship management is essential in personal relationships, such as marriages and friendships. In one case, they discuss a man who consistently has difficulty managing conflicts with his spouse. When disagreements arise, he tends to shut down emotionally, avoiding conversations or becoming defensive. This creates a cycle of unresolved tension, where both partners feel frustrated and misunderstood. After learning about relationship management, the man begins to approach conflicts differently. He starts by acknowledging his spouse's feelings, even when they don't align with his own. Instead of avoiding difficult conversations, he actively listens and asks questions to better understand her perspective. This approach not only helps de-escalate conflicts but also strengthens the emotional bond between them. As a result, they are able to resolve issues more constructively, leading to a healthier, more supportive relationship. This example demonstrates how relationship management can transform personal interactions by fostering deeper understanding and empathy. Another deep example involves a leader who initially struggles with providing feedback to his employees. He finds it difficult to strike a balance between being honest and supportive, often erring on the side of being too critical or too vague. His employees begin to feel unsure of where they stand, which leads to anxiety and diminished performance. By developing his relationship management skills, the leader learns to give feedback in a way that is both clear and constructive. He starts by acknowledging his employees' strengths and contributions before addressing areas for improvement. He also ensures that his feedback is specific and actionable, giving employees the tools they need to improve without feeling demoralized. This change in his approach helps his team feel more supported and motivated, improving both their performance and their relationship with him as their leader. This example underscores the importance of managing relationships with care, especially when it comes to providing feedback or guiding others' development. Throughout Chapter 7, Bradberry and Greaves emphasize that relationship management is not just about resolving conflicts or getting along with others, it's about being proactive in building and maintaining meaningful connections. The authors stress that managing relationships requires constant effort and awareness. It involves understanding the needs and emotions of others, showing empathy, and using emotional intelligence to guide interactions in a positive direction. The chapter encourages readers to see relationship management as a skill that can be developed over time. By practicing empathy, active listening, and open communication, individuals can improve their ability to navigate relationships in all areas of life. Whether it's leading a team, resolving conflicts, or deepening personal connections, relationship management allows people to create environments where trust, cooperation, and mutual respect can flourish. In conclusion, the deep examples in Chapter 7 illustrate how effective relationship management can make a profound difference in both professional and personal contexts. It shows how emotionally intelligent leaders, friends, and partners can create stronger, more positive relationships by being attuned to the emotions of others and actively working to meet their needs. Through empathy, clear communication, and genuine connection, relationship management enables people to build relationships that are not only functional but deeply fulfilling. Chapter 8, Putting It All Together. The authors conclude the book by emphasizing the importance of integrating the 4 core skills of emotional intelligence into daily life. They provide a roadmap for continued growth and development, encouraging readers to practice self-reflection, seek feedback, and cultivate meaningful relationships. The chapter offers deep examples to demonstrate how individuals who develop emotional intelligence holistically can navigate complex situations more effectively, achieve greater personal satisfaction, and foster stronger connections with others. One of the first examples in this chapter involves a high-level executive who, despite being highly competent, has struggled with work-related stress, strained team dynamics, and a lack of personal fulfillment. This executive initially lacks emotional intelligence, often feeling overwhelmed by his workload and responding impulsively to stress. He is unaware of how his stress manifests in short temper and disengagement from his team, leading to communication breakdowns and conflicts. His leadership style is task-oriented, and he tends to brush off emotional cues from his employees, believing that efficiency and results are more important than relationships. However, after learning about emotional intelligence, the executive embarks on a journey to integrate all four components into his daily interactions. He starts by developing self-awareness, recognizing the signs of stress in his body and how it triggers impatience and frustration. He begins paying closer attention to his own emotional patterns and understanding the impact of his mood on others. By practicing self-awareness, he gains insight into how his stress affects his leadership and interactions. Next, he focuses on self-management. Instead of allowing stress to dictate his responses, he implements strategies to manage his emotions. When he feels overwhelmed, he takes a step back, practices mindfulness, and reframes his thinking to approach challenges with a calmer, more constructive mindset. He also learns to regulate his emotions during difficult meetings by taking deep breaths and maintaining a positive outlook. His ability to manage his stress improves, and he begins to approach challenges with more clarity and patience. With this newfound emotional control, the executive becomes more attuned to social awareness, realizing that his team's morale has been affected by his previous leadership style. He starts paying attention to the emotional cues of his employees, their body language, tone of voice, and subtle changes in behavior. He notices when his team members seem disengaged or frustrated and begins to ask open-ended questions to better understand their concerns. By focusing on social awareness, he becomes a more empathetic leader who is better able to connect with and support his team. Finally, the executive works on relationship management. Armed with self-awareness, self-management, and social awareness, he approaches his team with renewed openness and care. He makes a conscious effort to build stronger relationships by actively listening to his employees, acknowledging their contributions, and providing constructive feedback in a supportive manner. He also resolves conflicts more effectively, using emotional intelligence to mediate disagreements and foster collaboration. Over time, his team's morale improves, communication flows more smoothly, and the workplace becomes more productive and harmonious. This example illustrates how integrating all four components of emotional intelligence can lead to transformative leadership and a more positive work environment. Another deep example in this chapter involves a woman navigating a challenging personal relationship with her sibling. The two have always had a close bond, but lately, tensions have been rising due to disagreements over family matters. Initially, the woman lacks emotional self-awareness, often reacting impulsively during arguments, saying things she later regrets, and feeling misunderstood. Her relationship with her sibling begins to deteriorate as unresolved conflicts pile up. As she works on her emotional intelligence, the woman starts by developing self-awareness, recognizing the emotions that surface during these interactions. She realizes that her anger often stems from feeling dismissed or unheard, and that her emotional responses are tied to a deeper desire for validation. With this understanding, she practices self-management, learning to pause before reacting and taking time to calm down before engaging in difficult conversations. Instead of letting anger control her responses, she reframes her thoughts and approaches disagreements with a clearer, more composed mindset. Once she has gained control over her own emotions, the woman focuses on social awareness, paying closer attention to her sibling's emotional cues. She notices that her sibling often becomes defensive during arguments, which may be a response to feeling attacked. By becoming more empathetic, she starts approaching conversations with more understanding, validating her siblings' feelings, and showing that she values their perspective. Finally, the woman improves her relationship management skills by actively working to repair the bond with her sibling. She initiates open, honest discussions, not to prove who is right, but to understand each other's viewpoints. By acknowledging both her own emotions and her siblings, she fosters an environment where they can resolve conflicts constructively. The relationship, once strained by emotional reactions, begins to heal as they rebuild trust and communication through emotional intelligence. This example highlights how emotional intelligence can strengthen personal relationships, leading to deeper connections and better conflict resolution. The chapter also discusses how emotional intelligence can be applied to long-term goal achievement. The authors describe an individual who struggles with motivation and consistency in pursuing a personal fitness goal. Initially, the individual lacks self-awareness, not recognizing how negative self-talk and emotional barriers are sabotaging their progress. They feel discouraged after minor setbacks and give up easily, without understanding the emotional patterns driving their behavior. By applying emotional intelligence, the individual first works on self-awareness, identifying the emotional triggers that lead to procrastination and self-doubt. They recognize that feelings of inadequacy are holding them back and that these emotions stem from unrealistic expectations. With this awareness, they begin to practice self-management, learning to replace negative self-talk with positive affirmations and taking small, manageable steps toward their goal. Instead of letting frustration derail their efforts, they focus on incremental progress and celebrate small victories. As the individual becomes more attuned to their emotional patterns, they also work on social awareness, seeking support from friends, family, or a fitness community. They recognize the value of external encouragement and accountability, which helps them stay motivated. Finally, they use relationship management skills to build a support network, asking for advice, sharing their challenges, and working with others who share similar goals. This collective effort helps them stay on track, and over time, they achieve their fitness goal through the consistent application of emotional intelligence. Throughout Chapter 8, Bradberry and Greaves emphasize that emotional intelligence is not just about mastering individual skills but about integrating all four components to navigate life's challenges successfully. The chapter encourages readers to think of emotional intelligence as a toolkit that can be used in a variety of situations, from resolving conflicts and building relationships to achieving personal goals and improving well-being. In conclusion, the deep examples in Chapter 8, putting it all together, illustrate how emotional intelligence can be applied in both professional and personal contexts to create meaningful change. Whether it's improving leadership, strengthening personal relationships, or achieving long-term goals, integrating self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, and relationship management allows individuals to navigate life with greater emotional insight, resilience, and success. By putting it all together, emotional intelligence becomes a powerful tool for building a fulfilling and balanced life. Conclusion. Emotional Intelligence 2.0 provides a thorough manual for enhancing emotional intelligence to achieve success in both personal and professional endeavors. Bradberry and Greaves help readers improve self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, and relationship management skills through self-assessment tools, practical strategies, and real-life examples. Thank you for listening. I hope this content is useful to you. If you like this kind of content, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel to support our team.